Hey everybody, welcome to Vision Mix Studios, our YouTube channel, and visionrecordingstudios.com. Today I want to do a video about a topic that I get asked about a lot, and I got a bunch of questions and a bunch of recommendations for this video over the last week or so on our YouTube channel, and I thought I would address it. And the basic concept or the question was, I'm running my little home or project studio, kind of doing it part-time, want to get more clients, or I've been recording my own music and I want to get clients. I want to start recording other people and start making some money. How do I do that? How do I go about it? And that's a pretty broad topic, and it's a pretty difficult thing to answer in just one sentence. So what I thought I would do is just tell you how I got started and the things that I did when I first started out as a part-time business on the side as a hobby, kind of making some extra money to the point where I became a full-time studio. And again, all done out of the comfort of my own home studio. And I'll be doing a studio tour video soon. There's already one up on YouTube. It's a little older. Some things have changed. I've gotten some new gear and stuff, but you could see the basic layout. If you go search my YouTube channel, you'll see my basic studio. It's just a home studio, nothing fancy, not a multi-million-dollar studio with racks and racks of equipment. Just a home studio that I'm able to work full-time in and have been for several years. And this is how I got started. So I started as a part-time hobbyist, just like many of you probably watching this. I'm a musician, a guitar player, was in bands, original bands, cover bands over the years. And back in the mid-90s, I always had a fascination with recording and wanted to record my own band's music. That's how I got started, learning how to record back on the old Tascam, and I think it was the Foztech 4-track cassette players. That's what I started on. So I am dating myself a little bit for some of the younger people that are watching this, but that's how I started. And over the years, I've had my little studios, and as I was able to afford to make my studio a little bit nicer, a little bit bigger, and I got better at the craft of learning on my own music, I decided this is what I wanted to try to do full time, and I wanted to, just start recording other people, make some extra money, and then hopefully eventually moving into a full-time business, which I have. So the very first thing I tried to do when I was trying to get new clients is, first, let's say you're doing some recording, you're getting pretty good at it. You may not be, a world-class engineer yet, but you certainly can do something that's above some hack job. You're somewhere in the middle, right? You've been working on your own music. You got some stuff together. You think you can start recording other people and turn out some decent quality work. So how do I go about getting clients? Well, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, what kind of studio are you? Are you going to be a studio that's actually going to track bands in your home studio? Or are you someone who's going to just do some mixing and mastering work where you're going to deal with people on the internet and have them send you, audio files and mix and master their project? You got to kind of decide what you want to do. Reason why I say that is if you're going to be just a mixing engineer, the tools and the stuff you'll need to have is a lot different than if you're actually going to track artists live in your studio. So if you're going to track bands and artists live, obviously you have to have the space to be able to do that. You have to have, the necessary equipment, microphones, cables, stands, all the accessories that go around when running a recording studio. You have to have all that stuff before you can actually, start recording people. Unless you're just going to do like singer-songwriter stuff, then you may just need a vocal mic and kind of a, an instrument mic, and that's really about it. But anyway, I'm assuming that you've kind of decided what kind of studio you want to be, and that you have all the necessary, equipment, gear, and space to be able to do so. So the very next thing I would say to you is, the next thing I did was, you got to build yourself some kind of a website. And I recommend, if you're going to kind of run a business, even if it's part-time to make money, you should have something outside of just Facebook. Facebook is great. You should have a Facebook page for your studio. I do at Vision Recording Studios, or facebook.com/Vision Recording Studios. We have a Facebook page, but we also have a website, visionrecordingstudios.com. You should have a website, even if it's a free WordPress template. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a website, but you should have a website. On that website, you ought to have kind of a bio of who you are, what your experience level is. You need to have a page for what kind of services you're going to offer and how much you're going to charge. And we'll talk about charging in a little bit and how much you should charge. You also want to have a portfolio page of audio samples so people can listen to the work that you've done recently, so they know what kind of quality they're going to be able to expect when they come to you to record, or when they send you their audio files, so you can just mix their work. So you want to build yourself a website, and obviously contact information, so on and so forth. Simple 3-4 page website that just gives people the basics. So when you're going out, like we're going to talk about in a second, how do I go get those clients? And you start doing your networking, they have a website to go to. I don't recommend you just have a Facebook page. It doesn't present itself as a professional. And Facebook is limited. They're always changing the rules and the way and what you can and can't post. And it's not the most, user-friendly website to navigate. Your own website would be much better. And then also have a Facebook page, and also have a YouTube channel if you can, to give yourself more social media access, but definitely want to have a website. So now, once you've decided what kind of studio you're going to have, and what, you're going to have your website, even if it's bare bones, you're going to have something with a .com that someone can land on. The next thing I would tell you to do, and what I did when I was first starting out, is there wasn't a Friday or Saturday night that I was not in the clubs in my local area watching bands live. If I wasn't working with a client, and I still do this to this day, I'm out in the clubs at least twice a month, going around, talking to different bands, passing out my business cards, shaking hands and kissing babies, as a politician would say, getting out with the people. Get out into the local music community. Let people know who you are and what you're doing. Hey, I'm just starting up a studio. I've got some work on my website at this, level, this many years of experience. Come check out what I can do if you guys are interested in recording. I would do that hundreds of times a month with people, shaking hundreds of hands to get out my business card into many hands as possible. Okay, so you want to go to live shows. You want to insert yourself into your music community. Bands play together. They talk around the community. Musicians talk to each other, right? If you're a musician watching this, if you've played gigs, you meet up with other bands, you talk with other bands. I'm sure you've been asked or have told people where you've recorded your stuff in the past, and that's how you get your word around. So go to live shows as much as you possibly can to get your name out there. It will pay off, I promise you. The other thing you can do, and I still do this to this day, Craigslist. Great free way to post ads about your studio and your local website. If you're going to do some mixing work for people outside of your local area, if that's what you decide to do, you can now post ads all over the country, right? Through Craigslist. I can't tell you how many hits on my website I get from Craigslist, and how many jobs that's turned me on to. And it's free. It takes a little bit of work. I know you can't just post the same ad across all 50 states all at the same time. Craigslist has got all kinds of rules around that, or at least they did. But you can strategically place ads in different parts of the country, depending on how far you want to reach. But definitely in your local area, you want those ads being refreshed every 3 or 4 days. Every time a musician goes to Craigslist in your local area, they want to see your studio. Very, very powerful, and it doesn't cost a dime. So you want to do that. So now you're out at live shows, you're posting on Craigslist, you're on the internet, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on YouTube, you're inserting yourself in your local music community. Okay? Now you got people calling you. So now what do? And this is something that a lot of people might disagree with me on, what I'm about to say to you. The way I've always run my studio, even from the time before I had my very first client, I made a decision that I wasn't just going to record any old band that wanted to come into my studio. I didn't care if I wasn't working at the time, because probably like many of you, I had a full-time job, and my studio income wasn't really a necessity. It was something I aspired to get to, but it didn't have to make money. So I was always, from the very beginning, very selective about the people that came and recorded with me. I just wouldn't record any old person. If the artist or the band wasn't any good, or if I saw them live, or if I saw them, or listened to their stuff that they had online and they were a crappy band, I wouldn't take on the project. And I'll tell you how you can kind of weed those kinds of bands out in a second. So I was very selective. If the artist was really good and the artist or the band was really tight, then I would want to work with them, because my philosophy was, look, every CD that leaves my studio's got my name on it. And if a crappy band hands out a CD that sounds like crap because the band sucks, it's going to, the band's not going to say, well, we sucked that day in the studio. They're going to say, oh, the studio wasn't cool. The vibe wasn't right. They didn't get my sound right. Usually that means the band isn't really pro and they don't have their act together 9 out of 10 times. So I would highly suggest that you be very careful about the people that you bring into your studio. You only want to work with good quality musicians. because 75% of a great recording is musicianship. If the musicianship is good, the band is tight, the artist is good, your job becomes a lot easier, and you're going to make it, at the very least, a good quality product. Even if your mixing and your engineering chops aren't completely up to snuff yet, and you're still growing and learning as we all are. I'm still learning and growing and trying to get better. But if you have a great artist, it makes it that much easier. And no one's going to listen to your stuff and go, wow, that really sounds like garbage. If you can take a decent artist and you can just get the levels kind of right and just kind of get the balance of the instruments, even if you're not a great mixer, that's going to sound like a really good demo at the very least. And at least it's going to start to develop your reputation that you can turn out good quality work. And a lot of that has to do with the musicianship. So be selective. Okay. And you talk about, well, how do you weed those people out? How do you know? I mean, you go out to the live shows, you give out your business card to hundreds of people, band calls you up. How do you know if they're any good if you don't remember seeing them play live? Well, I'm going to tell you how. So what I do with every artist, I do this to this day. Artist calls me up. If I've never seen them before, and I get this every week, I talk to them on the phone, talk through how much do you charge? We could talk about that in a minute. We kind of give them a ballpark figure. What kind of project do you want to do? I kind of give them kind of an idea of what the rough cost is. Before I let anyone step foot into my studio, I always, always, always have what I call a pre-production meeting with the band. I go up to their rehearsal space. I don't charge the band anything for this. It's on my own dime. It's my own gas money. It's out of my pocket. I tell the band, look, I'll come to you. I want to see you rehearse. I want to watch them play, even if it's 3 songs. I want to talk to the band. I want to get to know the band a little bit. I want to get to know who's representing the band. I want to know what I'm getting into before they step foot in my studio. Believe me, you will weed out a ton of people that way, and you could decide for yourself, hey, this is a band I want to get, want to get it on with. This is a band I don't want to get it on with. I can, and then this way, you get to meet them, they get to meet you. You get to understand their expectations and understand their project in detail. You could figure out for yourself, okay, can I meet these guys' expectations? Can I do the work? Can I deliver on what they need? And then you could decide whether or not you want to take on the project. That will help you weed out and only bring in people into your studio that you feel is something that you can really do good work, and that the artist is really good and you're really into what they do. Not to mention, at least in my area, no studio goes out to a band's rehearsal space and meets them. They thought that was the greatest perk in the world. Wow, you'll come out to see me. You're not going to charge me for it. You're going to come to me for a meeting. Makes them feel like rock stars. It gives you an inside look to what they're all about. They feel great about you because you're willing to take your time, your gas money to go spend a couple hours with them. Even if you don't take the gig, or even if they decide to go to another studio, it shows you're a class act. And what all that kind of does is it develops your reputation, especially if you're new at this and you're trying to get a good reputation in your local music scene. All these little things help. So I do that with every single band and every single artist. So if that pre-production meeting goes well and they want to move forward and you want to move forward, once you've given them kind of a quote on what it's going to cost to do their project, then the next meeting is the artist comes to my studio, not to record. I want them to come in and see the place. Come on in, hang out, check out the vibe, check out the gear. Let's talk a little bit more from our last meeting. Maybe now they have some additional questions they forgot to ask you when you went to see them. Now they come to see you. Okay, they get a chance to check out the space. They get a chance to see what the studio's all about. They get to see you in your environment now. Okay, so now you've had 2 meetings with them. So if they decide to move forward, the first time they're walking into your studio to record is not the day of recording. You don't want the day that they record the first time they've ever seen your studio, or the first time you've met them in person. That's a bad idea. I know a lot of studios do that. I know people have probably been really successful doing it that way. It's not the way I choose to work, and it's worked really well for me. It has gotten me out of more disasters than I can tell you, because I would talk to someone on the phone and think, oh, wow, this sounds like a really good project, blah, blah, blah. And then I go up and watch them play, and oh my God, they're train wrecks. And I'm like, I want no part of this, because what should only take 2 days in the studio is going to take 10, because these guys don't have their act together. You'll start to get a feel for what you want to work with, who you want to work with, what kind of projects you want to be involved with. So that's all part of being selective. Try the pre-production meeting. They'll think it's great. It takes a little more time to get them booked and on the calendar. You got to put a little more effort in, but in the long run, you're going to develop a much better reputation, and you're only going to work with the type of clients that you want to work with. So that's really, really important. Okay. So one thing that people would say to me was, well, gee, if I'm just starting out and I'm turning away work and I'm not just taking in anything, how in the heck do I ever get better at this if I don't have any acts or bands or music to work on? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You want to practice your mixing chops, right? You want to be good at mixing and mastering if you're going to be a mastering engineer as well. But if you want to be mixing, you want to get good at it, right? If you don't have bands coming into your studio and you don't have music to practice on, how the hell do you get better, right? It's an obvious question. I'm telling you, turn away people that aren't any good. And you're like, I just want to record somebody so I have something to practice with. Here's another way you can do it. Go to a couple of websites. First website I'm going to give you is duelingmixes.com. Website will pop up on the screen. Second website is mixcoach.com. What these two websites are, if you've never heard of them, they're membership sites, monthly membership sites, very, very affordable, less than $25 a month, where for $25 a month, you can join one or both of these websites. And what you get is you join a community of other mix engineers, where every month you get a full multi-track song, usually recorded in a real high-end studio, real good quality recorded tracks for you to practice your mixing on. Okay, that's wonderful. You get different styles of music. You get really good, well-recorded tracks, so you can really focus on mixing and mastering, but mixing chops, which getting your production and get your mixes sounding professional. The other great thing about this is you get to post then your mixes on their user forums or send them to the people that run these websites, and they give you feedback on your mixes. So you get to hear feedback from people who do this for a living and your other fellow mix engineers that are at all different levels of their career. Some just starting out, some that are seasoned professionals. So now you get some feedback on the work that you're producing. This is a great way for you to practice your mixing chops before you start working on people's, your clients' projects. So if you have some downtime, if you're struggling getting those first projects, or if you're not just taking any old person that wants to give you $50 to record, this is a great way to practice your mixing techniques, is by these two websites. Again, Mixcoach member and duelingmixes.com. Wonderful websites. I have been affiliated with both of them in the past. Not that I get any, affiliated's the wrong word. I've been members of theirs. Even to this day, I'm still a member of Mixcoach, and I love that website. It's wonderful to be able to send some of my mixes in to guys that some of these, known Nashville's producers and mix engineers that mix, some of the biggest stars on the planet, and they're actually critiquing my work, which is wonderful. You get great feedback from people that are in the business. It really helps you get better. They're two wonderful resources. So that's one way to practice. At least you're mixing. As far as your recording and your capturing techniques, the way I did it when I first started is if I didn't have a band in here and I wanted to learn how to record an acoustic drum kit, I'm not a drummer per se, I'm a guitar player. I went out and bought myself a $800 Gretsch, kind of a, entry-level drum kit. Replaced all the heads on there and put some nice quality heads on the drums, and I'd bring it in, and I could play enough to, hit kick snare with a simple little fill and some cymbal crashes, right? And I would, mic up my own drum kit, and I'd go in there, I'd record some stuff, come back and listen, move a microphone, work on mic placement techniques, learned how to record a kit before I had a client in here. Invite a drummer friend over that really knew how to play. Once I kind of got my act together, let them play for a while, recorded them. Worked on the stuff on my own. I call it investing in your craft. Make the investment in stuff like Mixcoach member or Dueling Mixes. Invest in the craft by doing some recording on your own. You probably already do this if you're a musician. If you're a guitar player, you'll probably write and record your own music all the time. Work on your own tracks. Just don't take any old crappy band in your studio just so you have something to work with. That's my recommendation. Again, some of you guys may disagree with that. Some people may listen to this and go, you're out of your mind. You should take everything and record everything you possibly can. I didn't take that approach, and it's worked well for me, but it's just, that's what this is. What did I do? How did I do it? This is what worked for me. Okay, so you're working on your craft, you're getting better at what you're doing, you're being selective on who you want to work with, you're out in the scene, you're networking, you got a decent website, maybe you got a couple of sound samples that you've recorded, you got, your work's getting better and better. Okay, so now we talk about the studio. So you got people calling you, you've gone out, you've met some people, now you got a couple of recording sessions scheduled, people are going to start coming into your studio. You want to kind of work on the studio itself. And I know depending on your space and your personal situation, everybody's is going to be a little different. But My whole thing was, especially if you're a home studio, I'd say you want the space to be kind of inviting. You want it to be kind of a cool, kind of a, trippy kind of a vibe. Nice dim lighting. If you can see behind me up on the ceiling, I don't know if the webcam picks this up. I have, Christmas lights on the ceiling, cool colors, nice warm tones. Everything is neat and clean and kind of looks good. It's not just some, slapped together thing in an unfinished basement where there's no sheetrock on the walls and there's insulation hanging out of the rafters. You want, if someone's going to come in and pay you money, you want that space to be inviting. You want people to come into your studio and go, wow, this is a really cool kind of a hip place. I feel comfortable recording here. It's all about the energy, the mood, the vibe. If you're a musician, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have kind of a cool, comfortable space that you feel really good about emotionally, you're going to have a much better performance than if you're in, some unfinished basement where the vocalist is recording next to the hot water heater and the thing's going off in the microphone, or, the place smells all musty. And so, you want to have a nice kind of an environment. And again, everyone's situation is different. You're going to be limited to what you can do, but you want to try to make the thing as comfortable and as cool as you possibly can. So how do you do that? Well, go on YouTube, look at other people's studios, go, do your research. Online, you can find a lot of different cool ideas. I'm going to do another studio video tour here not too long from now. You can maybe steal some of the ideas I've come up with. I don't know. I stole them from other people, so you could steal them from me. But you want the space to be inviting. So when they come here, they have a great experience. Not only can you give them a great product at a good price, but they have a great experience as well. So and let's talk about charging for a minute. Well, how much do you charge when you're first starting out? And that's kind of it's a difficult question to answer. My philosophy has always been, even when I first started out, I kind of build myself and I was kind of fake it till you make it kind of a thing. I'm not going to be the cheapest guy on the block, but I'm not going to be the most expensive guy on the block either. Do your research in your local area, find out what other studios are charging. It really depends on, it's a supply and demand thing, right? What are other studios in your area charging? You don't want to be the lowest guy. You don't want to undercut everyone way too much because you don't want to have that reputation as you're the cheap studio. I never wanted that reputation. I don't even put anywhere on my website that I do demos. I hate the word demos. Demo to me sounds cheap. I tell clients I do professional sounding records. If you're going to use them as a demo, that's fine. But demo to me always made it sound like it's not as good as the professional stuff. And that's just me. I'm a little wacky like that, but it's worked for me. If someone calls up and says, I want a 3-song demo because I'm just looking to get some gigs in my local area band. So I said, well, I could give you a 3-song CD, but it's not going to be a cheap demo. You're going to pay X amount of dollars. It's going to sound like a professional record. It's not going to sound like a cheap demo. And bands and artists really like that. So I would say, again, how much do you charge? Do you charge by the hour? Do you charge by the project? Boy, that's another tough question. I don't charge by the hour. I charge by the project. I kind of figure out what I feel I'm worth as an hourly rate. I kind of been doing this long enough to know, depending on the project, and because I meet with the bands in person beforehand, what the project really entails and about how long it's going to take. And I kind of figure out how much, I need to get an hour, and you kind of come up with a project price. That's how I do it. Some people just charge a flat rate. You could do it however you want, but my point is, I wouldn't be the cheapest guy on the block just to get a lot of work. I don't think in the long run, if you want to do this full time, that's not the right way to go about this. You got to look past today. You have to look at what does you want your business to be down the road and what kind of reputation do you want to have. And you have to kind of gauge your skill set against the supply and demand in your local area and kind of come up with a price. And the bottom line is, the more you're in demand, the better your work gets, the more you can charge, right? I mean, that's pretty simple stuff. So I know that's not a direct answer, but it's kind of a thing to think about when you try to decide on how much you want to charge people. Charge people what you feel you're worth. Don't give everybody the deal of the century. What you're going to find is a lot of local artists, especially the weekend hobbyists, that don't have a lot of money. They're all looking for the deal of the century. They all want something for nothing. And I've always billed myself as you get what you pay for. I don't do bottom rock prices just to get money in the door. I believe in quality over quantity. The quality artists, the ones that take their craft seriously, even if it's just a hobby for them, will invest the money to get something of high quality. I would rather again, be looked at. If you're looking at cars, for example, I'm not maybe not the Ferrari of the recording studios, but I am not the Yugo either. Right? I'm somewhere in the mid-size family car, someone who has a few bucks to spend, but doesn't have to be rich to come spend it here. And I'm going to give them the best bang for their buck. That's how I kind of think of it. So as far as charging, that's how I would kind of go about it. Once you got some people in the door and you've done some work, the next thing I would tell people is get testimonials. If you have clients that are happy with your work, and they should be, if you've done your job, I ask every single client for a testimonial. Please, can I have a little testimonial put on your website? I've had artists that say, you can even videotape me and put that on my website. And I've done that, and it's worked wonders. It's like a review on Amazon.com, right? You buy a product, you like to read reviews. Well, people want to read about testimonials. They want to hear about other clients' experiences. Get testimonials. The more testimonials you get, the better. And I've gotten to the point where I don't even ask some people for them. They just send them to me in an email, and I just cut and paste them, put them on my website. I've had people actually get in front of a video camera and do it for me. Didn't have to pay for it. They were more than happy because I worked with them and had such a good experience at my studio that they were willing to do that. That will go a million miles for you in getting future clients. So try to get as many testimonials as you possibly can. And then the last thing I would say is, give your past clients kind of a commission or a finder's fee for future clients. So if I have an artist that came in, really enjoyed what I did for them, got a great CD out of it or a demo or whatever they get, and they go out and they do their thing and they tell other artists about me. If another artist comes to me and says, hey, so-and-so recommended me, I give that other client, free studio time the next time they want to come in and record. Maybe not completely for free, but maybe I knock $100 off the session or 25% or whatever you feel is fair. But give your past clients a reason to tell other clients about you or other musicians about you. Give them some perks for being repeat customers. Give them some perks for getting other people to come to your studio. It makes a world of difference. And all those things that I just mentioned all add up to the point where I went from doing this part-time, maybe a couple of times a month as a hobby, making a couple of bucks on the side, to eventually becoming a full-time studio where now I'm busy. I'm booked 3 to 4 or 5 weeks in advance pretty much all year. The only time I'm not really booked that far in advance is usually between Christmas and New Year's when no one has any money left. And that's kind of when I'm working on my own music, but I'm booked pretty much all year round. And it's because I treated my studio like a professional business from day one, even though it was a home studio. I treated it like I was in business for 10 years before I ever had the first client. I went out and I built myself in a way, especially in the beginning, I kind of built myself up to be a little bit better and a little bit more than I really was. I call it fake it till you make it. Once you get to that point, you don't need to worry about that as much. I didn't lie to people, but I always it's kind of like dressing for the job you want, not the job that you have. I'm sure you've heard that analogy before. So by doing all those things, I was able to attract people to come to me, to give me a chance. And it's really worked out well, and I'm very fortunate. Oh, and the last thing, I forgot to mention this, which is pretty obvious. When I first started too, one of the things I was doing as I was seeking out really good talent in my local area is if I found an artist that was really, really good, someone who probably had a couple of CDs on their own already put out, they had another studio that they like working with, so on and so forth, I would offer them free studio time. If I found an artist that I really liked their music and thought they were really good and it would be really good to have their sound samples on my website, I would offer them a free session, a free 4-hour session in my studio. Maybe they have a new song they just wrote that they didn't have a chance to record yet. It's a great way to get someone to come into my studio that maybe was working in another studio to see maybe if I can kind of steal that future business. I can't tell you how many times those free 4-hour sessions turned into a full album 6 months later. A dozen times that's happened to me. I gave away 4 or 5 hours, met a new client. Next thing you know, 6 months later, they're calling me back, asking me for a price for a full-length CD. Right? And inevitably, without even knowing what their other studio would charge them, my price would always end up being a better deal because I'm a home studio and I don't have the big overhead. So I didn't have to charge like a big commercial studio can charge. And they felt really great about the fact I would give them something for free. So when you're first starting out, do some free work. But again, be selective. Don't just record anybody. Go out and get good talent and offer them some free recording. And the only catch is you just say to them, hey, look, can I use this recording session as part of my portfolio? I've never had an artist say no. Most of them are honored that you'd put their stuff on their website. But again, you only want to put great stuff on your website. You don't want to put a crappy band on your website. Even if the sonic quality of the recording is great, but the band is kind of all over the place, don't put that up as your best work, okay? You want bands that are really, really good, artists that are really good, regardless of the style of music, okay? So that's what I would recommend for someone who's just getting started. I know I'm ranting, I'm all over the place, but this is kind of how I started, and it's worked well for me. So please subscribe. Please like our videos. Please go to our Facebook page and like our Facebook page. Please use the comments below if you're watching this and you're someone who runs their own studio part-time or full-time and you have some other tips for people that I forgot to mention or just haven't thought of. Please write them in the comments section. Let's use this comment section as a forum to try to help people. If you have any questions about anything in this video or anything else that I might not have mentioned, please send me an email, visionrecordingstudios.com or visionrecordingstudios@yahoo.com. Sorry, that's my email address. Or send it to me through YouTube. I'll get back to you within a couple of days, I promise. If you send me an email, you will get a response from me, I promise. And if you have any other questions or have any other comments, leave them below. Please share this video. Please share our channel. We're getting up to that 1,600 subscribers, which 6 months ago we only had 50 subscribers. So I really do appreciate the support. I'm glad my videos are helping. Hopefully this video was helpful. I hope it answered the subscriber's question that sent this in. Try some of these tips and these ideas I just mentioned. It does work. And if you have any other ideas, again, leave them below. So thanks so much. Till next time, this is Dave from Vision Mix Studios, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.